She does that. That was my silent concern on my mind today. It's going through, as she said, our whole lives. We lived in that house since 1975, so thank you so much for indulging me on that. So when I started thinking about why am I getting this message to start talking about taking hopeful action in troubled times, it became really apparent really soon why I was getting this message and why it might be helpful for people. So I started thinking about, okay, as a sociology professor, what do I teach people about all the time? One is the following. The way we get taught about social movements tends to be about a lone hero or heroine. Tell me the names you know from the civil rights movement.
Martin Luther King.
And did somebody say Rosa Parks also? Right, so you hear of amazing, incredible individuals, right? What we don't get taught is the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people who did whatever was in their power and their gift to do to make those movements work. So the people who were making coffee and bringing snacks so people could be up all night strategizing. The people who found the church and put chairs together so people could sit and strategize. The people who were attorneys, both figuring out what was lawful while the nonviolent trainers were teaching everybody what nonviolent resistance looks like. The attorneys were both finding out what was lawful and also getting people out of jail who were unlawfully jailed for being protesters, for saying this isn't right. You had the people who were writing the speeches. You had, of course, the incredible leader, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks, and you had Medgar Evers, and you had all these folks, and they are incredible. You have a million other heroes and sheroes behind the scenes doing what they could do so that the movement could take place. Getting a permit to walk this route in a city. Finding out, you all, I walked it and it's not quite right. We can't take hundreds of people with us. I'm going to do it again. All the tiny actions that make up what really creates social change is something I'm really concerned about and want to share with you all. So I'm going to talk today about both within that frame in a time like this. What a discouraging time. What an incredible time when a lot of people feel, I know, a lot of despair. I want to tell you what I learned about taking hopeful action from the folks that I got my hope and inspiration from at a time when I really needed it. And that's the group that I studied for my dissertation. They're called the Greenwood Neighbors in Nashville, Tennessee. So I was doing my PhD at Vanderbilt, and I had done psychology as an undergrad and an English minor, and I had then done a counseling psych master's, and I decided the piece I really loved was the educational piece, and I decided sociology was the way I wanted to do it, because there was this way of thinking of the collective, not just the individual, which I learned so much about in psychology, and that was beautiful, I loved it, but I wanted more. How do societies arrange themselves? How can we live together in a better way where people get what they need? How can we live together in a way that's more beautiful, more kind, more peaceful, and where we can all actually just live a life of respect and dignity? That's what I wanted to know. Well, I got into sociology. It takes this collective look. You might find that, I don't know if you're surprised, but I was quite surprised to know it really wasn't about all the things that I was concerned about. The tools were about, you could look at the collective and how societies are arranged, and I thought that this was going to be about liberation. That's what I thought. You know what it was about? Because this is what academia is about. It's about doing your research and getting your study published and 3 other people read it, and then you get tenure and you get promotion, and if you really write between the lines and ba-da-da-da-da, you're gonna get promoted. And I was like, this is bullshit. That's not, that ain't, what? We have the tools. We have the tools to know how to make people's lives better, to help people in real communities, to lend research to truly try to help people live a greater lives of respect and dignity in solidarity together. It wasn't about that. Wasn't about that at all. So I had this moment where I was going into my dissertation. I really lost my hope. I fell into truly, I think one might call it a clinical depression, one might also call it a dark night of the soul. And I just was like, I don't know if I can do this. This isn't, people would say, play the game, just play the game and get tenure. And then later, like 5, 10, 7, 18 years down the road, you can do what you want to do. I was like, we don't have that kind of time. I'm not going to live my life like that. And so I didn't know what I was going to do. Somehow, and I honestly don't remember how, I learned about this group called the Greenwood Neighbors. They were a largely Black neighborhood in Nashville. They were facing really escalating crime in a situation where it had been just a total family neighborhood where people would watch out for each other as kids. Everybody would be playing in the streets, and neighbors would watch the kids, and everybody took responsibility for raising everyone and teaching them what is right and all those things. And this neighborhood had fallen into decline. And so a lot of the folks in Greenwood said, we're not going down like that. We're at least going to do what we can. And so I started doing interviews with the Greenwood neighbors in their neighborhood meetings. They used a neighborhood association to do their work. Other neighborhood associations were going, not in my backyard, and protecting their, not here. And then the Greenwood neighbors were using it for trying to actually make the life of everybody in their neighborhood and everyone around them more safe for kids and elderly people and everybody. So I started meeting with these neighbors, and I remember one conversation with a woman named Miss Mary, the most senior of the leaders in the group. Almost all the leaders had lived through the Jim Crow South, were Black and had lived through the Jim Crow South. They had lived through the Civil Rights Movement. They knew what it looked like and felt like and was like for them and their families and their loved ones before. They knew what the Civil Rights Movement did, and they knew, my God, I can do something. So Miss Mary was telling me about her work, and she would go around the neighborhood and knock on doors and ask people, do you want to come down to our meetings? We'll have food, we'll have coffee, we'll hang out, we'll sing some songs, we'll just have some community. And you get to tell, my problem is, here's there's a drug house right beside me. And they would bring in experts of all different types to say, here's what you can do. And so let's do this together. Nobody had to know anything. Nobody had to know anything in particular. They would just bring themselves. And this group would say, be a part of it. What, do you want to bring something to eat? Do you want to, do you know somebody in the codes department in city? What can we do? And they would bring in all their experts, and they were so unbelievably resourceful. I asked Miss Mary, you can only imagine, knocking on doors, she had a lot of no's and a lot of doors slammed in her face even. And I said, how do you do it? This was me like in my late 20s or something, I was like, how? I mean, it just seemed hard to just get rejected a lot. And she was like, oh my gosh. If somebody says they don't want to come or they can't help or they slam a door in my face, she's like, they say flat out, absolutely not, no. She's like, I say, thank you for your time, and I keep on moving. She's like, I'm just looking for those open doors. That's what I'm looking for. I am looking for those open doors. She didn't have any time to be bothered with this person slammed a door in her face. That's not her person. Then that's not her person. She's looking for people who would be willing to come and just go, I don't know what I have to give, but wow, I have some concerns, and can we do this together? And maybe, I don't know, I feel really scared. And people are like, you just come. All you gotta do is come. Don't you worry about it. We're gonna do this together. Not one voice, exactly like the song Jim had us sing. One voice, anybody in power can say to one voice, get out, nuisance, or they can arrest you, or they can whatever it is. But when there are this many, it shows the level of fear the current administration has that they're sending out. I read 2,000 members of the National Guard, because Los Angeles residents have said, not our neighbors and friends and kids, and no, ICE, you're not coming. We're gonna actually stand, we're getting out in the streets, and we're gonna say, this is not how we wanna live, we don't agree with this is not us. And so when there is real change, when people put their arms together, when there's real change afoot, is when you'll see administrations throw the kitchen sink at you because they could lose their power. And so these are the kinds of moments when the future actually hasn't been written yet. From my belief system, the future hasn't been written yet. I don't know what happens next. I don't know if you do, but there are, in my belief system, we have this moment of uncertainty. We really don't know. What we do know is that in times of uncertainty, it is unbelievably powerful to take what I call, based on the Greenwood neighbors, what they did, hopeful action. They would take hope. Here's what we hope for, and we have a vision. We see what is. We have to take a really clear-eyed look and see what is. That's the hope part. Hope isn't Pollyanna, it's gonna be perfect no matter what. It really is not. Or there's literally nothing we can do, it's all hell in a handbasket. Also not true, I just know that as a sociologist. These administrations go down all the time. Historically, throughout history, across countries, they don't last they always go down. The amount of time in which they can do their damage and have their reign is what the question is, right? And so in this moment of taking hope and going, let's take a clear-eyed picture. That's the first step. The next step is, what's the world we want to live in? This horrible, repressive current regime, they developed all of this, any kind of horrible oppression or whatever, any tactics, it's also from their imagination of what could be. So I'm gonna ask us, and then they figure out what to do, and do 1177 executive orders on the first days, right? In this case, Stephen Miller was behind the scenes, writing. And my friend who used to work on Capitol Hill said it to me. She's like, I know, leading up to the inauguration, Stephen Miller, who has a dastardly mind, is off writing executive orders, and that's what they did. Guess what? We can also have a vision and use our imagination to think of what we hope is possible, what we think is possible, and then we can start to take those steps into it. Not by saying, oh, I think I'll, end all of this tomorrow. No, but instead, what is it that we can do together? Where can we plug ourselves into existing initiatives and people who are really taking a look at what's going on right now? Where can we link arms and help? So the thing I want to ask you all about now then is, what are some of the things that you hope for? In an ideal world, let's even talk about in a local, it can be about this community, because I truly believe this is where we build. We build in our own communities, and we build in our own ways of linking our arms together, and we build by going, I don't know what to do, but maybe I could do something. So What are some of the qualities you all would like to see, whether it's here in Louisville or bigger? What values would you like to see lived out?
Access to healthcare, fairness, equality.
Yes, access to healthcare, fairness, equality, did you say, Mary?
Mhm.
Absolutely. What else? What else do you all wanna?
Reasonable discourse.
Reasonable discourse. Could we actually maybe think a little differently about something and go, I honor the light in you,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't have to tear each other down to think something different. My goodness,
Mhm.
absolutely. What else? What else would you all like to see?
I think it would be, like, freedom of choice.
Yes. And do you mean, Linda, in all arenas?
Mhm.
Absolutely. We could choose how to live our lives. Somebody else doesn't have to live their lives like we do.
Mm-hmm.
By all means, we could have choice in our lives. Absolutely. What else?
Income equality.
Absolutely. Why? This is a historic level of inequality between the rich and the poor. A lot of these policies truly look like an attempt to hollow out the middle class and to put those on the edges to
Mhm.
put people into much greater vulnerability to where
Mhm.
the true billionaire class is, has all the power. That's the attempt. That's the attempt, right? It's not all working. It's not all working, and some of it is working. And so I want you to think about your own, whether stated or not, your own values you want infused into the world that you live in. Would you be willing to close your eyes for a second and just imagine?
One more, what about legal justice?
Oh, Bill, absolutely, legal justice, thank
How many-
you.
How many people are on death row that are from a low socioeconomic background?
Oh, and so many, and so often folks of color who were wrongfully accused. Absolutely, were not guilty of whatever it is they say they were, and absolute known criminals walk free.
Mm-hmm.
We know this.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Bill, I love that addition. I want to ask you all if you would close your eyes for a minute, and I want you to think about what the more beautiful world looks like that you can imagine. I want you to feel it in your body. I want you to take a moment with that. I want you to really let it sit in your body, and for you to notice what feelings, what sensations, what does that beautiful world vision, more beautiful world, more kindness, more goodness, more respect and dignity for everyone, all the beautiful things you all talked about, what does that feel like in your body? I want you to just sit with it for a moment. And now I'll ask you to open your eyes, and would you tell me, anybody who's willing to, what did that feel like for you? Any way you want to describe it.
Peaceful and calm. I feel like I watched the Truman Show where everyone is just getting along and.
Yeah, Pilar?
Peaceful, yeah. Peace of mind, peaceful, calm.
Peace
Mhm.
of mind, peace and calm. No need to agitate and worry, and we know how many of our fellow citizens have been on literally high alert because they are the first ones who will be, but it could be at any point, going to the grocery, it was kids' graduations in LA the other day. It was going to their children's graduations at elementary school is where ICE raids came in LA. And so having that beautiful vision, I want us to be able to create from there. I want our anybody who has a more beautiful vision than what is happening right now, I want us to be able to create from that place. I feel like we're constantly on defense with an administration like the current one, and it's needed. It is needed, but so is offense, and so is knowing what we want to create, knowing where we want to create from, knowing how we can embody that in our daily lives now. I want to ask each of you, I want to challenge all of us, including me, to think of how would I step into that world? Who would I be stepping into that world? And to start in the tiniest little ways embodying that. Tiniest ways, when you're talking to each other here, when you're in the grocery, when you're in traffic. What would it take to embody that more beautiful world? We can actually do it now. We can, in our local ways, find what's in our way. Sometimes there are things we need in order to step into that vision. Something like the hero's journey or the heroine's journey, when they're first called, they don't have all the skills they need to embody, what they need to embody going into what, the hero that they're going to be. And so I would ask us all to think about, is there anything in my way, an inner voice, or do I need more knowledge? Do I need a skill set? What is it? And what if we could each just take tiny little steps towards that, living into that world? I also want to mention another thing, and that is there are places like ElSurge and others in Louisville that are doing incredible work. It's Louisville standing up for racial justice, and this in particular it's an organization of largely white folk, don't have to be, but it's largely white folks, arm in arm with Black and brown communities, being in solidarity in moving forward in this really critical moment. And in this theory of movements, it's if you're a white person in the civil rights movement, look to folks who are actually affected by the form of oppression for leadership. And so that's the philosophy of ElSurge. And I want to share with you what Carla Wallace, the executive director, president of ElSurge, said in the last meeting I went to. She said, people ask her if she's constantly discouraged. And she said, no, because I'm not doing this alone, I'm with people. People keep showing up and asking, what can I do? People keep going, I've never done anything like this before in my life, and they keep showing up. And what she said to me that brought me unbelievable hope was, she's like, we're finding where all the holes are in this administration, where we can go in, where it is we can do something. They're training people. That's a space I'm taking in as something I want to do, is get more involved there. I've been just only tiny bit involved. I want to get more involved there. I don't know if there are any other spaces where you might want to get involved, but the ways in which we do this is not alone, it's together. Despair comes from thinking we have to lift this whole thing alone. That's the whole point of all of this shock and awe, all of these executive orders. It's to get all of us in so much nervous system dysregulation and in so much despair that we give up and go like, I'll just wait until they take me, or whatever. Like, I'm not gonna do anything at all. And two other points I want to add real quickly before we close are that from the Greenwood neighbors, two big things for me are, you do not have to feel hopeful in every moment. Maybe you don't even feel all that hopeful, like for some majority of the time. Maybe you don't. You can still take hopeful action. You can still go, what's that beautiful vision? What do I actually want? What do I want to be a part of? What is it I'd like to live into, whether it's next year or in 2 years or 5 years? If I have those years ahead of me, what do I want to live into, and how do I build the groundwork, and how do we build the groundwork now? We don't have to feel hope in every moment. I'm relieved. I don't feel it all the time, and I do this work. But it isn't, if we only went by our emotions, it would be despair, right? But taking hopeful action to me is about taking your little part of the world, watching others who have been through it before. The US has been through this before many, many times. Other nations have been through this before. Folks who are wiser than I show us the way, I believe. I'm doing a lot of reading of different voices and getting some of my hope from that and from the collective. Our voices together, our linking arms really, really matters. Again, times of uncertainty is when to step in, because we don't know what will happen, but we sure know what will happen if we don't try. I want to leave it all on the floor. I want to at least leave it all on the floor, right? I don't know if what I can do will make a difference. But I sure know I've got something to give. I mean, I don't even know exactly what that is at the moment, but I'm figuring it out and I'm trying to do it together. It's a powerful time, as in times of uncertainty and anti-perfectionism. There is no need to do it perfectly. There's no way to do it perfectly. This exact way this administration is going, yes, there are patterns, but we're in a new moment. We're in a new moment. I don't know exactly what's going to work, so we have our attorneys, ACLU and others out there going, you can't do this. This is absolutely unconstitutional. You may not. You have people who are on all different fronts, and I'm so thankful for each of them going, we're not going down like this. This is our country too. We get to say, we don't have to be in despair. You have jacked our nervous systems, there's zero doubt about it. However, we can lean on each other in those moments. And so I want to leave you with, what is the tiny thing that you might be able to do? Is it just look up? I don't know, is there a group working on climate justice in Louisville? If that's your thing, and you're like, let me go join them. They probably are doing some stuff. Is it you wanna meet up with some friends and go, I think we're all concerned. Where are we gonna plug in? What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Are we just also deeply important is getting together and feeding each other's souls and letting each other know we are not alone. And so I will leave you with that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.